Hi, everybody. I'm here with Phil Strazzulla, and we're talking about, well, normally it's recruiter enablement. We might get onto that, but we're talking about recruitment technology in general first. So, Phil, first off, give us a quick introduction to you and tell us about your company as well and what it does.
Sure thing. So thanks for having me. I started my career off working in venture capital, doing early stage software investing. I got my MBA from Harvard Business School, wanted to start a company, taught myself how to program, and started just messing around with side projects, one of which became an HR tool that I didn't realize HR people would pay me to have this tool. And that became a business, which was kind of cool. 5 years into it, I hired somebody to run that business for me as a general manager. Wanted to start another company. I love to learn, I love to teach. And I saw that a lot of companies were really struggling with tool selection. And so I started Select Software Reviews. And we have a team of ex HR and recruiting professionals who are researchers who use all the different tools, HRIS, ATS, AI sourcing, et cetera. And then they write up their own unbiased reviews of these solutions. They also leverage a network of experts and users of these tools to write what we hope is the best content about them on the internet for people to understand what tools should I actually be looking at, how should I pay for them, how do I think about ROI, et cetera. And so that's what I spend my days doing.
Great. Okay. There's a real need for it because, I mean, from my perspective, I think the recruitment technology landscape is extremely dynamic. So it'd be great to just get from you, first of all, like, what are the trends? What's fading away and what's up and coming?
It is dynamic, and there are over 30,000 tools that we've identified. And the universe is huge. Like, I always am surprised when I come across something new, and maybe I shouldn't be surprised anymore at this point. I think, to be honest with you, for the vast majority of companies, the old is sort of the new, right? So people are still kind of buying better HRISs, better applicant tracking systems, sort of like this typical blocking and tackling sort of solutions. And then the companies that need to grow, that have more sophisticated HR, talent acquisition professionals, people operations folks on their teams, probably the people that listen to something like this, will then go and search for best in class point solutions to really push the envelope with recruitment automation, with employee engagement, onboarding, et cetera. So that's not just the B plus job that many companies do, but it's really an A plus that provides value to the rest of the business.
Do you believe that talent acquisition as a cohort of professionals are getting more savvy and how to automate things and how to be more productive and all that kind of thing?
Without a doubt. When I started in HR 10 years ago, I remember going to a conference, and one of the big ahas was, you don't just email a candidate once, you follow up with them if they don't respond to your first email. And everybody's like scribbling their notes, right? And I think now we look at more sophisticated tooling that will help us to build high converting landing pages, put people into nurture sequences, realize that some candidates are mid funnel and need to be put into a community before they're willing to come down bottom of funnel, reigniting those silver medalists in the ATS for future job searches, et cetera. And now leveraging some of this AI tech to do things like sourcing or screening, and even some of the other steps within the talent acquisition process.
Just on that AI, of course, it's like theme of the month right now. How much of like the recruiting process do you think AI has an element to to play a role to play with?
I think right now it's probably 10 to 15%. And that, so, theoretically, a full desk recruiter who is leveraging these tools is 10 to 15% more productive. And that's kind of the stat for programmers right now. So if you look at the CEO of Citadel, which is one of the largest hedge funds in the world that relies on programmatic trading strategies, just said, we realized that by implementing something like Microsoft's Copilot, that we can increase productivity 10%, which is pretty amazing because they have 1,500 engineers. So it's like hiring another 150 people, and they each make 500K a year. So that's pretty unbelievable. I think that's probably where we're at. And it's unclear to me personally, is this technology growing at an exponential rate? Is it plateauing? Uh, I bought a Tesla 5 years ago, and it was supposed to be full self-driving 6 months later, and still I don't really trust it on the highways. So it's really hard to predict the future on this stuff. But I would say at this point, you can automate a lot of your sourcing. You can automate a decent amount of screening. You have to be careful. There are actually laws in states like New York where you're not allowed to automate any candidate assessments. But you can save yourself a lot of time and effort for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I'm a massive fan of looking at go-to-market technologies and establishing, what are they doing in sales and marketing and customer services and e-com and things like that. What are they doing that we could learn from? Do you see more inspiration in HR technology coming from that world, or not particularly?
No, you definitely do. I think 7 or 8 years ago, companies like Beamery kind of started, and it was really hard for them to get customers. And then the customers they did have wouldn't really use the technology. And a lot of talent acquisition professionals were afraid of building a new career website, or didn't understand what a conversion rate really was and why that might lead to an ROI, and how to measure that and how to drive that. They weren't familiar with nurture sequencing and tools on the go-to-market side like Outreach or SalesLoft, and leveraging those, or large pools of information like ZoomInfo. And now it's become a lot more standard. And I think that perhaps not standard, but certainly within the top decile of companies that are doing talent acquisition, you're going to see a lot of this technology, and you see it with the valuations and growth of some of these venture-backed businesses like Paradox or Eightfold or Beamery, or Phenom. And it still remains to be seen around what's the end results and how much is smoke and mirror and low interest rates versus our new environment. But I think that the level of sophistication is way, way, way further than it was even 5 years ago.
Yeah, I agree. So I'm specifically interested in the area of enablement. I've taken a lot of inspiration from sales enablement and products like HighSpot and Gong and things like that. And I think we have quite a few that I would put into that broad category within recruiting now, such as Honeit and Bright Hire and things like that. But is this something that I know that your organization really works with larger, more established companies, but have you seen any growth in the area of enablement at all? Is that something that you've noticed?
Yeah, we have. And I think for us, established company means 10 million of revenue or something like that. And a lot of these businesses are. I think one thing that I'm curious to see play out is some of the companies like you just mentioned, they had a really good time selling into the unicorns, of which there were 2,000 2 years ago. And they were all growing fast. They all had so much money to spend on growth, whether that was marketing or people. And so it was just give us any tool to let us grow a little bit faster. And the people that run those talent acquisition teams are aggressive, sort of, MBA type business people, right? Yeah. That's a very different persona from the vast majority of people working in this industry. And so I don't know how mass market some of these tools are beyond this mid-enterprise, high growth business, of which there are, maybe there were 2,000 2 years ago, and now maybe there's 200. And they all have a lot less money. They're all focused on profitability, et cetera. And so I don't know what the future of a lot of these tools are. I think some of them, were like a survey basically disguised as something really innovative. And I don't think those businesses will probably survive unless they change a lot. But without a doubt, it's good, because what those Silicon Valley sort of companies do is the future for the rest of the industry. And you see that with OKRs, or the adoption of SaaS, or the adoption of sourcing tools, or stronger culture engagement, et cetera. basically stuff happens within these businesses that are truly like A plus, best in class, because they have to be to keep growing and survive, because they're doing something really hard, taking something from 0 to 1, and then that proliferates to the rest of the world. It just takes a little bit of time.
Yeah, very interesting. All right, Phil, thank you very much for your time today. I've learned a lot, and I'm sure I don't think there's going to be anybody listening to this that won't have learned. So I really appreciate it and look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thanks for having me.